Our Father who art at St James's, beautiful be the game. The corner kick come, the goal will be won. Give us this day our winning score, and forgive us our fouls, as we forgive those who foul against us. And lead us not into extra time, but deliver us from penalties. For thine is the Amiobi, the Kabaye, and the Gutierrez, for ever and ever. Amen. My name is Canon Glyn Evans, and this is St Andrew's, the parish church of St James's Park, and it's the oldest church in Newcastle. And I've been here over many years and been very involved at the church and at the football club. Oh, the church, there's lots going on here. We cover the city centre. So as I say, St James's Park is in our parish, Eldon Square, the hospitals, the universities. So we look after those, but we also look after the homeless and those people who are on the streets. So we come in contact with all kinds of people. When I moved to Newcastle, I was a Newcastle United fan for 25 years, and we moved into this parish church, and 50,000 people go past every weekend. So we wanted to do things for Newcastle United, get people into church and think about football and their faith. So we painted all the railings black and white. So I thought, well, the next thing I can do is get a black and white shirt made for Newcastle United. So that's why I wear it, to show the support and to show that sort of church and faith can relate to football. A religion is something you follow passionately. You're prepared to sacrifice time, money, effort, everything to follow that passion. And what they say, a belief. Some have a belief. And you have those beliefs in various things. And I think people believe the most important thing is the tune and following the tune, and that becomes their religion, their faith. And I think within that you do need places to go to kind of worship. So worship here in church, or worship at St James's Park, they say. And it become a religion for people where they gather, they sing songs like singing hymns. They have the hallowed turf at Newcastle United, and they all do various things like they cross themselves when they come on the pitch. So there's things that people can make it that passion, that faith, belief, and it takes over their life. And they even have tattoos. Well, I think people do. They'll have often, when something happens at a ground or they remember someone particularly, they might have a minute's silence, or, you know, they might have something that's sort of very spiritual and links people with God still. So sometimes I think you don't have to see God as always in church. God is in the world and with everybody. And that reminds us sometimes when we do those things that God is everywhere, even at the football ground. And so I think it's very much still part of it. I know some grounds have their own chapel as well and have prayers before the match. I think increasingly people want to feel comfortable where they're actually going to get married, or a naming of a child, or something familiar to them. And some people want something to be individual, so I think they think St James's Park is somewhere that can those individual things. I think it's different though. I think church is in many ways the place to sort of get married, and the baptisms and the christenings, and I think there is a similarities, but I think at some point I say church has got one over St James's Park, and I think that's sometimes the whole spiritual element. Because at St James Park you can't sing hymns in the service, you can't do anything religious in the service. And I think even at football matches they're seeking to ban anything that's sort of religious. And so I think church gives something that perhaps the ground doesn't. Very difficult, especially nowadays when they keep changing the football matches to a Sunday. So it's very difficult to get to the church balance. Sometimes I've got weddings, I never have weddings at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, so they say no weddings then. So sometimes church and the people come to get weddings, so sometimes they have to move. But that's the difficulty at the moment, is the way they change all the matches. Obviously that's with church, that always makes a challenge. But with family, my wife goes, my son's always gone, and my daughter always had to go. So if it's I'm going, we're all going. It's sacrifice time and money and effort, and so sometimes it's meant sort of giving up on some things which I'd like to have done perhaps even at church sometimes. But I think sometimes the place, when I've been to Wembley to see them, I've had to sort of sacrifice one of my holidays to actually follow them rather than taking a Sunday off to go on holiday. And of course, my children sacrificed their names because my son's Ozzy after Ozzy Ardiles. So he had to sacrifice his name. So that was very much a sacrifice for him as well. So we do that, and obviously sometimes following Newcastle United with my South London accent. Some people take the mick for that because obviously brought up originally watching Charlton Athletics. There's some of my brother and my nephews give me grief. So I've had grief, so I've had holidays given up, and obviously the time and effort and my children's names have even been changed. Wherever I've lived, I've always gone to support the local team. I think you should support the local team, and it should be either your first or your second team, definitely. I've lived here 25 years, came here, got my season ticket because I'd realised I was living here for the rest of my life. My wife now has gone for 40 years, so I supported her as my partner as well. And I love football, and Newcastle plays such lovely, great attacking football usually. I decided, you know, while I'm here, and this will be forever now, I'll be a Newcastle United fan. And that's why, but I still have a little inkling for Charlton, obviously, but Newcastle on my side that I follow. And of course, church is the parish church, so I think it's only appropriate that I do that. Oh, I think the hardest pilgrimage was Southend United. We were playing in the lower divisions then, and I went to see them, and we drove all the way on New Year's Day it was to watch at Southend United, watch some of the young players though, Lee Clark, Steve Watson those days, and we lost 4-1. And I remember passing the coach on a wet, horrible New Year's Day and thinking, Happy New Year. It wasn't a very happy New Year. Sometimes I've been with very few fans. I remember once, you know, 12,000 fans, I think, against Barnsley on one day, and you did wonder where it was going sometimes. And so your faith is challenged, and sometimes you have some doubts, but I don't think you lose faith in them going on because you think there's always hope, there's always a new season, and there's always a new beginning. And at Newcastle, that's always an exciting beginning. Role at Newcastle United is to care for people who need spiritual care. So there's lots of, some of the players are Christians and they might want support and encouragement. Some players would want to pray together, but generally it's about encouragement and support. It's about putting them in touch with churches they might want to be in touch with. But practically it's leading the carol services. It's helping people when they're feeling a bit down, if they're being released by the club. It's also trying to get the club engaged with the community as well, so the club see themselves part of the community. So I do various roles and various jobs within the club, and there's always something coming up there. For example, they had the ashes and where we sprinkle ashes, and people often asking what happens with family ashes. Now, they've stopped it for the moment, so perhaps I might be able to help with a solution here at St Andrews about where people can spread their ashes for the football club. What we did when we first came, it was the beginning of the season, so we needed to do something important, exciting. So it was Sunderland, Newcastle, I think one of the first home matches in August. So what we decided to do was do a beginning of season service to say very much about how we wanted a peaceful season, all to go well. So what we decided was we'd have a themed service for the beginning. So we're going to sing Abide With Me, Jerusalem, all those kind of traditional hymns, and pray for a good season. And then we thought we could do some toony tunes, so we changed some of the words to some of the hymns. So the first one we did all those years ago when Bobby Robson was here actually, and Alan Shearer and Kieran Dyer. So we sang, Onward Bobby soldiers marching off to play, with the prayers of Geordies we will win today. Further into Europe, we are on the up. Dyer pass to Shearer, scores we win the cup. Oi, onward Bobby soldiers, marching off to play. With the prayers of Geordies, we will win today. Well, it's just a bit of fun, really, and like I say, I've got loads of accolades. I've got Bartley Card, Premiership Fan of the Month for the whole of England for writing the hymns. It puts the church on the map, so that's what excites me. It gets us noticed by people, and it also kind of brings that relevance between football and church, and then we can join those together and make those hymns appropriate, obviously for St James's part, but then sometimes change the tunes so they're appropriate for church as well. So there's a two-way thing. And it makes it topical, and we can comment on the topical things. So we might be making, last year was Carol number 9, about Andy Carroll and about him leaving. And this year we've got one about St James's Park, and once in Pardew City stood the loyal fans. So we've got sort of some made up for this year rather than once in Sports Direct Arena, which I don't think we're going to have at this moment. Once in Alan Pardew City stands St James's Park so proud. We will never let them change it. Fans will sing and shout so loud. Ashley wants to change the name. We will always call it St James. Yes, some people thought it was good fun, but other people absolutely hated it. And I got mail in the post saying I was damned to hell and fire and damnation for all the things I'd done, for blasphemy, really. And then some people were in touch with our bishop, but our bishop says was supportive, but he didn't sort of really go for it. He kind of had to sort of tread carefully as well, because some people don't find it easy. It's like life, really, I suppose, pros and cons, but some of the people were quite vitriolic, and people from all around the world were emailing me and saying that I've sort of let the church down. So, yeah, it's not been easy sometimes. Go to the ground or in church, they're very similar, really. You know, you have to be there on time for it to start, so church has to be there on the same time. All the preparations beforehand you have to get right. You have to get dressed up to go to the match or to the ground, or you have to get prepared to come to church and the service. And there's lots of preparations go on here at church. You know, people have to choose hymns and they have to choose everything that goes on, choose everything that's going to go on. Same with the ground. They have to choose the football team. They have to choose what's going to happen on the day, choose tactics. So there's very similar things. And of course, when it actually kicks off, it's all that people in control. So sometimes I feel like I might be like a referee at church, you know, controlling all the emotions and everything's going on. And at the match, of course, I'm sat there wanting things to happen. And of course, the thing, same with church and obviously football sometimes you can't predict how it's going to go, you know, or who's going to turn up. So I think there's very similar things and emotions that go on at football as it does at church.